And we are in this series. It is Luke's goal to try to get us to understand how to move our faith from our head down into our hearts. Because if the faith ends up in the hearts, then it's going to move to what Cindy just so eloquently shared, and that is the ability to trust God and follow that by obedience. Trust and obey. For there's no other way to be happy in Jesus but to trust and obey, right? It's that simple. And so Luke's whole goal is, okay, I want you to be happy in Jesus. You will not be happy in Jesus if your faith remains something that you are only professing in your mind. It has to get down into the heart, because when it starts to govern the heart, it will begin to govern your actions. And that's why we're saying that faith is a verb. Faith isn't just a noun, it's a verb. And it is something that's going to be active within you. And so there's a lot of different things that we've been looking at, themes that will be repeated throughout the Gospel of Luke. One of those is Abraham's promise, this promise that was made to him that there is a God who wants to have peace with you, and then that peace can exist between you and your fellow man. And that promise now is ours as well. That we can have faith that there's a God who's able to raise the dead back to life. And that deadness isn't just I'm not just talking about a physical death, but all the components of death, emotional, spiritual, relational, all those things. There's a God who can kind of come into your life where you're experiencing death, and he can raise that back to life. I've got one that's happening in the Lutheran Church. I can't even believe the transformation in a relationship that is happening with me and another lady at the Lutheran Church. It literally is a miracle. I don't think that I did anything to offend other than I'm not the old pastor, right? Sometimes that's enough, right? The new guy comes in and it's like, I didn't want this new guy, and so I don't let, right? And yet now, all of a sudden, this relationship, she came today and she gave me a gift that is going to help me be a better Lutheran pastor. And so she had eyes to kind of see, it looks like you're going to be the guy. And if that's the case, then what you really need is a little help leading us Lutherans in how we do things. And so it was a beautiful little gift to, if you want to know what it is. So how many of you guys have gone to an Ash Wednesday service where you get the ash? How many people watch CNN and you saw one of the guys on there? He had the cross emblazoned in his head, right? What's his name? Which one? Yeah, Chris Cuomo. Thank you. And he had it all day, and he was on TV and everything. So anyway, I came that night, and I was going to do the thing, and so we got ashes at the last second. And as people were coming up and getting the ashes, I go to do the first one, and it was the worst ash ever. It wasn't black. It was like gray. It didn't stay. You could barely tell that it was on. And I'm sitting there going, this doesn't look anything like Cuomo. This is terrible. What is happening? And so I didn't know. I had never been a part of it before. And so everybody kind of left, and I went along my merry way thinking, well, we're going to have to do better next year. I don't know how, but we're going to have to do better. Got to get some black ash. I thought, she gave me some insight. You have to mix oil with the ash. That's what helps make it get black and stay. I didn't know this. It was so wonderful. It was such a nice little gift for her to be able to give me that. But isn't it nice that there's a God who's able to raise the dead back to life, even relationships, even on the rare occasion when you didn't do anything, right? That's just so nice because more often we probably did do something to contribute to the death of that relationship, and yet God can still bring it back to life. That's the heart of the gospel, is that we are included in this promise to Abraham. And that is just amen worthy. All right. Give you about a C- on that. A couple of you guys got A's, but yeah. All right, so as we've been kind of moving through, we have gotten to a section where we've got back-to-back healings. And these healings are signifying something in particular. Every healing is communicating something. We saw Jesus go into Peter's household and heal his mother. And so we have one of the principles that we see from healing is you are healed to serve. Very specifically, we are healed to serve. That message was not just to Peter's mom. That's a message to us. Because the bottom line is all we have to do is look in the mirror. But if you don't want to look in the mirror, look around at the people in your life. We're all wounded. We are all broken. Sin has corrupted every one of us, and we all need the healing touch of Jesus. And so he comes, and he is more than willing to heal, but the purpose behind his healing is that you may serve. Just go right back to love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, with all your strength, and love your neighbor as much as you love yourself. The heart of that commandment is in service to one another. So we see one of the healings was healed to serve. Another one that we had was healed to show God's authority. And we see this as he is healing people from demonic influence, I'll say. I'm not so sure I want to say possession. We could call it maybe oppression, but influence for sure. And so God comes in and he says, no, I have authority over this spiritual world. And so part of the reason that he is going to heal, again, another reason would be healed to show authority. Well, he also has healed to testify. We saw that as he heals people, he tells them, hey, be careful about promoting this too much, talking about it too much. He doesn't want to bring too many crowds to him, right? Bob kind of preached on that last week of just what an interesting concept to see somebody heal somebody and then be like, hey, keep it down. If that happened today, you'd be like, hey, guys, guess what? And then, you'd try to build bigger churches. You'd try to get on TV. But you'd say, look at me, look at what we're able to do here at this church. No, that's not why Jesus is healing. No, he's healed to testify. And he sends the person to the temple. And he says, go to the priests and encourage them with the testimony that there's a God who's able to raise the dead back to life. Let me tell you something about people who work in spiritual institutions. This is the promotion, and I'm talking, when I say spiritual institution, I'm talking about Christian spiritual institutions, the church or the temple in the old days. This is what we are promoting. We are kind of constantly coming back. Hey, there's a God who's able to do this. Well, as we proclaim that message and it gets out into the people, we need people to come back and tell us it is indeed happening in my life. This is why we give a testimony time at Kona Bible Church. It's the exact reason why. One reason is to get prayer, and we'll always accept your testimonies and requests for prayer. But the predominant reason why we do it is to hear from you how there is this God who's bringing aspects of your dead life back to life. We need to hear that. I need to hear that as a pastor. It encourages me to continue on proclaiming this message. So keep at it. So we have healed to serve, healed to testify, and healed to show authority. And today, what I'd like you to consider is, that was the Lutheran service. We're doing something different today. So that's the healing, and we're going to get to that. We have a little interlude in the healings. And here is where we are going today. We are in chapter 5, verses 1 through 11. Let's read a little bit of this. Now Jesus was standing by the lake of Gennesaret. It's another word for the Sea of Galilee. And the crowd was pressing around him to hear the word of God. He saw 2 boats by the lake, but the fishermen had gotten out of them and were washing their nets. He got into one of the boats, which was Simon's, and asked him to put out a little way from shore. I love that. This is Simon Peter. This is Simon. He's called Simon right now. This is Peter. Now, this is really cool because this is what God does. You've heard me talk in the weeks prior that he's in the suburbs, right? Jesus right now is in the suburbs, but he's on his way to the city, to Jerusalem. And we understand that he is in the suburbs of our lives. He's kind of approaching us, and he's on a destiny. He's on a mission to get to our hearts. We see it very tangibly in the life of Peter. First, he gets Peter, and he goes into his home, right? And he heals his mom. Okay, that's really nice. I mean, think about making an impression on somebody if they care for your family. That they come and they do something for your family. You're like, you know what? This guy's not so bad. I'm all right with him. And then, watch what he does. He now goes to a fisherman and asks the fisherman for his boat. He asks the fisherman for his boat. You get this? This is crazy. Ask a fisherman. You just go down. This is what I'd like you guys to do this week. This is your job. Okay? You want to obey, Cindy? No, I'm just kidding. Here's your task. To go up to a fisherman who's just returned to the pier. He's just come in and say, I need to use your boat. Now, how do you think that will be received? Not a chance. You're not getting in that boat. There's no chance. I'll give you the heads up already. You're not getting the boat. Okay? Fishermen, this is their livelihood. They're very protective of their boat. They might say, hey, for a couple $100, I'll take you out on my boat. But they're not going to give you the boat. And here Jesus is. He's coming in. And remember, this is a fisherman. This is the heart of who he is. Have you guys talked to fishermen? We live here in Hawaii. Have you talked to fishermen? They are passionate about catching fish. This is their life. This is their identity. So you're talking about moving closer to somebody and their heart. Jesus is moving closer to Peter. He has walked into his home. He has healed his mother. And for that healing, I offer you to consider, Peter gives Jesus the benefit of the doubt and says, I guess you can use my boat. This is what's going on. Jesus, he's getting closer to Peter. Gets into the boat. Then he says, then Jesus sat down and taught the crowds from the boat. When he had finished speaking, he said to Simon, put out into the deep water and lower your nets for a catch. Simon answered, Master, we worked hard all night and caught nothing. You see what he's getting at here? Peter's like, hey, you're really good at the healing thing. That was awesome. You know, it was my mom, so I'm not so sure how sick she really was. Did I say that? Is that not? No, you're really good at the healing thing. The teaching's not so bad. I can get behind the teaching, but the fishing, okay? The fishing, that's my deal. Now, what I would offer for you guys to consider today as you walk out those doors is that Jesus knows something you don't know. Jesus knows something about your life that you don't know. And he is making a journey from your head, and he is on a non-stop mission to get to your heart. And he will go after anything that gets in the way, even the thing that is the most intimate thing about you. The thing that you would look at and see as central to your identity. Jesus is going there. And he knows something about all those things that you don't know. Watch what happens here. But at your word, Peter says, I will lower the nets. Verse 6. When they had done this, they caught so many fish that their nets started to tear. So they motioned to their partners in the other boat to come and help them. And they came and filled both boats so that they were about to sink. But when Simon Peter saw it, he fell down at Jesus' knees, saying, Go away from me, Lord, for I am a sinful man. For Peter and all who were with him were astonished at the catch of fish that they had taken. And so were James and John, Zebedee's sons, who were Simon's business partners. Then Jesus said to Simon, "Don't be afraid. From now on, you will be catching people." So when they had brought their boats to shore, they left everything and followed him. Jesus is on a mission to your heart. There's nothing that's going to get in the way. It doesn't matter what you think your identity is. It doesn't matter what your interests are, what your passions are. He knows something that you don't know. And I guarantee you what he knows is better than what you think you know. You see, I used to be Peter. There was a time in my life when I was moving up in the hospitality industry. I was moving up. Every couple of months I was getting a new position. And I was young for my age. And I was about to be a director of one of the departments in a hotel. Super young. And then an opportunity came along, and I went with the opportunity, and the doors were closed, and I thought, it's no big deal if it doesn't happen, because I'd have to transfer the hotel anyway, because the people in the next position are longtime locals. They're not moving. And so I took the opportunity. I walked away from the hotel for a season, and then everything came crashing down. And in those 3 months, both those longtime local guys left the positions, and people below me were in those positions. I would have been a shoo-in. I would have been so young to have one of those positions, and that would have been my life. It would have been me. And in the subsequent year, I just tapped out, going, okay, God, you knew that was going to happen, but I don't know what you have planned. And it took a whole year in order for God to reveal, but that's when he sent me to seminary, kicking and screaming, because I did not want to be around Christians, because Christians were annoying. They were not loyal. They were not loving. They were hypocrites. They were Pharisees. They were legalists. They did not bring joy or life to me. And yet, I had to tap out and say, God, I will go and I will give you 1 semester. And then I presume what will happen is that I will be so annoyed that I'll have to leave. And yet God knew something I didn't know. He knew something better about me. And in that 1 semester, he led me to engagements with Christians that were much different than my experience had been up until that point. And I thought, what is going on here? And 1 semester became 2 semesters, 3 became, and all of a sudden I'm about ready to graduate, and people are asking me, hey, what's your ministry going to be? And I was sitting there in my head thinking, well, that's the wrong question, because life is ministry. And so I'm just going to live this life. But I do feel a calling that God has filled me up, and he is going to pour me out on some people. I didn't know what that looked like. But then God, knowing something I didn't know, knowing something better that I didn't know, brought me here to Hawaii, and every door just opened up for what is happening now. And the life that I'm living now is way more fulfilling, way more joyful than what it would have been working 90 hours a week for a hotel. Jesus knows. He knows something that you don't know about your passions, about your identity, about your life. He has expressed it in the gospel here with the life of Peter. He's done it in my life. He's done it probably in your life as well, if you just stop and take a look around. But that's the encouragement that I want to give you guys today, is to just begin to think about this moving from the head to the heart. Jesus is on a mission. He's going to get there. And he's going to confront all those things along the way with you. But let me tell you one thing. You can have confidence to take the next step because what he intends for you is something that you don't even know how good it will be. Think about the people of Israel. He wanted for them to experience freedom. Now there's a journey to get to that freedom. To get to the promised land, it was not easy. And yet when they got to the promised land, they got to experience homes they didn't build, vineyards they didn't grow, fruit trees that they didn't plant, and they got to experience the joy of the land. It's not much different than the story of Kona Bible Church. We were in a wilderness time for a while. Many of you guys remember when the flies would dive bomb me into my mouth as I was preaching. And then the Lutheran Church invited us to share this. We walked into a church we didn't build. We've got a sanctuary that we didn't have anything to do with. We have a property here that was taken care of, that we didn't have anything to do with. God knows something that we don't know. And what he knows is that he wants to bless you with life. Life eternal and life abundant. As he is moving from your head to your heart, you are going to be confronted with yourself. And in that moment, are you going to tap out and trust him and take the next step? Peter gets to this situation because what Jesus knew about him is that he was going to call him to be a disciple. That's coming up. This calling of Peter to be a disciple. And so here he is. He's moving in. He reaches out. He heals the mom. He reaches out, borrows his boat. Reaches out and says, I got gifts for you with fish, but nothing can compare to if you take that next step and become my disciple. Will you become his disciple? That's what he wants most of you. It's very true what Priscilla was saying yesterday. And I hear she went to a great seminary. It's very true what she was saying. The Gospel of John is designed in this 3-step journey of faith: believing, abiding, and loving. And this is the same thing that Luke is going through in just different language. It's exactly what I'm preaching. Moving from the head to the heart. Believing to abiding and loving. He wants something from you. But what he wants to do for you along the way is to bless you with life. Will you receive his call for you? Father, that's our prayer as we just go through Scripture and see what you have done for others. As we testify here in church to what you have done for us, we then proclaim it to others because we know the life that comes from your call. And so, Father, for those out here today, we're all in different stages of our faith journey. Some of us are still struggling with the believing aspect of this whole thing. Others of us need to be challenged right there with the abiding. And then some of us are now being called to love. Father, you have sent your Son on a mission. And you're getting there for all of us. You're getting into the center of our hearts. As you do that, Father, give us the courage to be able to trust you for the next step. And allow the testimonies of your people to remind others that they can be sure and confident that what you intend for them is life. Thank you so much for your word, Father. In Jesus' name, amen.